Okay, well, welcome everybody. It's Wednesday night. Here we are all together again to talk through the law of attraction. So I'm super excited. If you have not picked up this book, I would recommend it from Abraham-Hicks. It's the study and teachings of Abraham, done through, channeled through Esther Hicks. Great book. Ask and it is given. This is the book that I was sharing with you that the teachings are the premise for the movie The Secret and the book The Secret. So it's a really great book. What I'm probably going to do or am going to do as we continue through our study is touch upon a few things that are in the book. You don't have to have read the book in order to be a part of this. You guys all understand a little bit about the basics of the law of attraction and how it works, right? Step one is you ask and you put out there your rockets of desire of what it is you want. Step two is it is automatically answered and given to you by the universe. And step three is the allowing process. And step four is getting better, even though there's really not truly a step four. Step four is just getting better at step three, which is allowing and doing a lot of the processes that are at the back end of this book to kind of help you have less of a wobble, have a less of a back and forth, to be more focused on what it is you want as opposed to the tiptoeing back to what you don't want, right? If what you don't want pops into your head, what's great is we've all been learning, we're getting really good at identifying that and being able to stop that momentum from happening by reaching for a better feeling thought or just even just acknowledging that you're having that thought, which helps you to not get any momentum with that thought. The great thing is, even though we talked about in calls in the past that it's like Aladdin and his lamp, and he asks and the genie says, your wish is my command, right? Here you go. Ask and it is given. It doesn't happen that quickly because the 17 seconds, there's some thought that it might be 16 seconds, but 16 to 17 seconds of a thought is what attracts that next thought, the good and the bad. So anytime you're feeling a downward spiral, you can change it immediately by just reaching for a better feeling thought. And a better feeling thought doesn't necessarily have to be the greatest thing that takes you from the utter pits of despair up to the top of euphoria, but something that's slightly better. In our group, we have the notations of the emotional guidance system. We'll refer to some of that from time to time, so definitely make sure you look at that and kind of see where you're at, because the great part about the emotional guidance system is just getting from, depression to, and complete despair to anger. Anger is a feeling. Depression means you've got no feeling. That's like one of the worst things on the emotional guidance scale because you've got nothing. You're just feeling apathetic. You have no emotion. You're just done. But being angry gives you fire. It gives you feeling. And then people are like, oh, what's you're angry? It's like, yeah, but it's better than being depressed, right? I'm not sitting in my room moping anymore. I've now gotten to a place where I'm feeling. And then anger can lead to frustration, and then you can just move on up the guidance scale. So some of the things we're going to do, and as we go through this study with one another, so I'm going to share with you some of the processes and share with you how I'm utilizing them and how I think they can help you. Just like anything else, if you don't use them, they don't work, right? So you could think about it. We're going to talk a little bit on the book of positive aspects. You can have a book that you call your positive aspects book, but if you don't necessarily use it, it's not going to help you. So if you get the book, it's process number 8. I'm going to try and get this on a PDF for you guys so that I can add it to the group so that if you're not with the book, you can at least read through it. But I'm just going to kind of share with you really quickly what it says in the book so that you're familiar with it without me just having to kind of share it with you. So this is basically, it starts out each process with when to use this process. So this process is great for when positive emotion floods through you in response to a positive thought you are focusing upon, and you want to ride the positive, good feeling wave longer, okay? This is also when you're aware that a subject that requires your consistent attention does not feel good, and you want to improve your vibration on that topic. So I know we had some talk in that thread about jobs. This is kind of falling in place with that. And when most subject that you focus upon feel good to you, but there's a few uncomfortable holdouts that you want to mold into a better feeling place. So these are all things I think that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, because who doesn't want to feel good and then ride that wave, right? Who doesn't want to say, oh my gosh, things are going better and I just wanted to keep going better and better and better and better? Or you're looking at a work situation and you catch it as you're starting to kind of go, like if this were like where everything's feeling good and you're starting to feel it's going a little to the left, that you can catch it before it gets any momentum. These are really great. There is a spot in here where it says, if you want your current emotional set point range, and it'll tell you where you want it to be. If you want to look through the list on that, it's somewhere between 1, which is joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation, which makes sense because you're there. You want to continue with that, to number 10, which is frustration, irritation, and impatience, which I think I was perfect that I suggested this process based on what everybody commented was their area of challenge right now, because this is right where it is. There's not often that if you catch the frustration, you can't get it to go into a better place for you personally, right? We can't change anybody else. We can't control them at all. We just can control our reaction. And in doing so, the universe will create an environment around you that matches the vibrational frequency in which you are emitting. So if you're emitting frustration, guess what's attracted to you? More frustrating events, more frustrating people. You're in a long line and they're all long lines at the grocery store and you just happen to be in the one where the cash register breaks and you can't move because your stuff's already on the belt. You know, those type of things. And then you're like, oh, everything bad keeps happening today. That is why. Because you have emitted a frequency of vibration of frustration, and the universe doesn't know that you want it or don't want it. It just knows that that's your vibration. So it says, fantastic, I got some more frustrating things to send your way. Let's go ahead and do that. But if you can at least move yourself up closer to appreciation, to a point where it feels truthful. It cannot be a place where you're coming up with positive aspects. Let's say it's a positive aspect about somebody you work with. If your positive aspects begin to feel that you are pushing, that you are straining, that you don't even really believe them, but you're writing them down because you feel they're the right thing to write down, then you need to go back, because that's no longer a good feeling thought, because your body and your emotional guidance system is knowing you're writing that down, and that's not necessarily truthful, right? I went through this exercise with Kimmy a while back. We were chatting about it. She had done something very similar. She was coming up with some positive aspects about a particular person, and she was reading them back to me. She wrote them in a Facebook message, and I pointed out one of them, and I said, when you sat there and you wrote that, did you stop for a minute and pause? Because I knew she did, because I knew she didn't truly believe it. And that was because she went too far. But that's a good thing, because when you catch yourself going too far, yeah, that's not quite true. Let me go general, right? We've talked about going general. So you want to be as general as possible. And if it's not about that particular person, if you are really struggling to find anything positive, go bigger. If it's work, find positive aspects about work. But anything and everything you can do to bring yourself from frustration to closer to joy, encouragement, that will make you feel so much better. And then you will attract that particular type of person, environment, event, all of that will come into your life. So I want you guys to get yourself a book if you don't already have it. It can just be a notebook. If you already have one, it can just be a 3-ring binder or a spiral notebook. Mine is just one of those journal books that the kids get for high school. I picked one that had a pretty picture on it. I think I've shared it in the past. It had unicorns and rainbows on it. Because to me, that meant exactly what it is in that book. Not that they don't exist, right? Rainbows do exist, but rainbows and unicorns bring happy feelings. So what I realized is there were a couple of times where, you know, I wrote some things in there and I started to feel like, okay, now I'm reaching. And as soon as I felt I was reaching, I stopped. And it felt good, because and then I go back and I read it and I'm like, wow, those, I really do feel those. Those are genuine. Those weren't me trying to push the envelope, trying to be something that it is not. It was really, truly me coming into a better place of vibration and making sure that whatever I was thinking about, I was making sure that I was bringing about, right? I use this with, I mean, we'll talk through, you guys know that I was going through some things with my son. I was really in a place of just, I couldn't get my mind off it. Whenever I thought about it, it went to a place that wasn't good. And I knew they weren't good. And I knew that focusing on it and thinking about it, and it's like, well, watch pot that never boils. It's like, when is this situation going to change? It wasn't until I sat down, and he was the first person I wrote about in that book. And it's not because I had any negative feelings about my son. It was the situation that was happening. It was feeling that I had no control over it. But then I was like, you know what? I just need to focus on all the wonderful things in Johnny and not the things that I hope and wish will change. And so I just started writing down anything and everything. It was the easiest thing to do. It just flowed, you guys. And again, it's my son, so it's an easier thing to do than somebody that you work with that isn't the greatest. But there are times where you may not come up with something that's super, super positive about the person you're writing about. It could just be, well, you know, on the first day that I came to work, my boss bought me lunch. That was pretty nice. He always seems to be in a fairly good mood. Occasionally he points out things I don't do that are right, but I kind of know they're not right either. You know, and you just kind of start working your way into it. And then you're like, you know, he's a little bit better of a manager than I was at that age. You know, whatever it is. And you can always come up with something. But again, if it doesn't, and it's super, super hard, and your boss is somebody that you're like, okay, that's not somebody I can come up with any positive things about, can't even be, you know, just neutral about, think about the job. I love my job. Been here a long time. I love the fact that they pay me every 2 weeks, or some people get paid every week. I love the fact that my check's there every day it's supposed to be there. Those are things, right? Sometimes we take these things for granted. Right? It's like looking for beauty when you've forgotten that the beauty is there. You drive the same drive every single day to work, but you never really stop to really just look at the clouds every morning and go, gosh, those are beautiful. That's what we're looking for in the book of positive aspects. Okay. So I had you guys share with me a little bit in there about what you were hoping to, or what situation you were really struggling with. And I know a lot of it was work related. Does anybody maybe want to touch upon a particular situation and maybe we can play around with it a little bit? Doesn't necessarily have to be using the process of positive aspects, but maybe we can come up with a solution or at least a better feeling thought.
Well, you know that I've been struggling with work the last couple of months. We lost one person, and so basically for 75 days, I was pretty much carrying the load by myself, doing the job of 3 different people. And it got kind of stressful there for a while, and it was really hard to be positive. Or I would go to work and I would start off positive, but then it would go downhill. Well, lately, since our last meeting, you know, it's still really bad, but now I just, instead of being totally stressed out all the time, I just laugh. You know, if it's something that I have no control over, I just kind of laugh it off and say, okay, let's start over again. You know, the girl I work with, it's like, let's just start over again. You're just learning. So let's, instead of getting upset, you know, because it's not being done right, I just say, okay, let's try this again. Let's do this one more time. Let's see how it goes. And every morning I've been coming to work and I've been writing a positive saying on our board at work. You know, one of the ones I put on there was, you can't control what you can't control. And that's pretty much, you know, the situation that we're in right now. Scheduling a large number of students for the Air Force. We have limited resources, and it's really difficult right now. So, but we can't control it. So instead of being totally stressed out, let's just take a step back and say, you know, I can't, there's nothing I can do about this, so let's just make it work with what we have. And that's what we've been doing.
Well, exactly. And I love that, because also what I noticed when you were sharing that is you said that it was kind of the work of 3 people, that you were doing. You just realized, even though it was a little bit stressful, you could do the work of 3 people.
Yeah.
You're capable of doing that. And not to say we want to have that happen all the time, but it has shown you probably more that you didn't even realize you were able to handle. And now you're able to handle it with a great attitude. So what a wonderful lesson in there. And that's what this is all about, is that when things happen to us, you've got to look for where the lesson is in there. Because if you don't, you're just going to feel more frustrated and you're just going to attract more frustration. But laughter is the best solution to any problem. Disease, anger, what have you. If you watch a funny movie, you cannot laugh and be angry at the same time. You just can't. And you can't be angry and love really at the same time. I know a lot of people say, oh, I'm so angry right now, but I love you so much. Well, at that moment, you were not loving them, because anger and love are 2 very different vibrational frequencies. So you need to get back. You will get back to love. And I love you normally, but right now I'm angry. And angry and love do not coexist together. So you've got to get from the angry to the love. So thank you so much, Debbie. I appreciate that. Norma, what about you? Anything kind of going on in your world this week? Are you off?
There we go. Yeah, one of, I've been finding this week has been kind of interesting. In fact, even just this morning, no, tonight, coming home. Okay, so I'm 10 minutes from work. Okay, so I mean, it's really not that big a drive, right? So I'm driving along, and people are in my way now. People are cheating, they're going off to the side, things like that. And I could just feel myself. I was like, I starting to get mad. Hey, you can't cut in front of me. I've been sitting here in line waiting for that light. All of a sudden, I just sat in I went out loud, really? You're upset about that it's going to take you an extra minute and a half to get home? What are you stressing about? This is ridiculous. And I just started laughing. And I thought, okay, well, that's good. And so I'm finding that I have been doing that, catching myself when I say, this morning I was driving to work and this gal was walking on the sidewalk and she was wearing extremely tight pants that accentuated the behind part of her body. And the very first thing I'm thinking, right, I know I'm trying to be very politically correct. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? You don't wear clothes like that. What is she thinking? And then I went, and what are you thinking? You're being so judgmental. You don't even know if that's the only pair of clothes that she has to wear. Really, let it go, Norma Jean, and just keep moving. And I started laughing again. I thought, wow. So at least, for me, the part that has been a really good positive for me is that I'm laughing at myself for doing that.
Because you're catching yourself. You're catching yourself.
Because I'm catching it, but I used to try to make myself feel bad. How come you didn't catch that sooner? How come why did you let that through? Right? I beat myself up. Now it's like, okay, acknowledge you did it. Yes, you did. You shouldn't have done that. And now we're going to move on to something else. And so it's bringing more positive things back in. I'm not letting work stuff still get to me. And funny, my boss has been kind of on vacation, not needing to talk to me, kind of off over here. It's been a wonderful week.
Well, I am telling you, it is honestly the most amazing thing when you see the law of attraction and the universe working things out for your benefit, even in small areas. And I jokingly say that I have my new kitten and I feel like I picked him out of a catalog, because I had all these feral cats. None of them would let me pick them up. They wouldn't let me, maybe if I was lucky, they'd let me touch them as they're over the food. But I was like, gosh, I really, really want a kitten that's going to just love me. Now I've got a kitten that loves me almost too much. He's the funniest thing, but he has everything about him that I loved in all of the cats I've ever had. He's just the sweetest, nicest thing. And he will sit here on my shoulder and just rub up against me on my face. My husband's like, what the heck happened? I'm like, I don't know how we're going to take them in to get fixed and say they're a feral cat, because I don't think they're going to believe me anymore. But those type of things, like I didn't even acknowledge it until like we were talking last week when I realized that it was, oh, hubby's coming through. Oh, hang on, I need to give my husband keys. Hold on. Sound good. Thank you. Whoops. I brought everything in here on my racing to get in from the traffic, and I brought my purse and everything in here. Needs to go pick up my daughter from Croft. But when we talked about it last week, it wasn't until then that I realized I had put that rocket out there of what I wanted, and then I didn't think about it anymore. I just would keep coming outside and wanting the kitty cats to play with me, and I would, call them, and then all of a sudden this little kitten appeared. So this morning, another kind of situation, this is what I love, is if you allow the universe to answer the question without trying to overthink it, you will figure it out. So I am notorious for when I am washing dishes, I take my wedding ring off and I stick it in my pocket. Not all the time, but often I will forget that it's in my pocket. I will take the pants off and I will either leave them sitting somewhere or I'll hang them back up or whatever it may be, and end up having to search for them. Often it's usually in a pair of jeans, which is nice because then they're still sitting in the pair of jeans. But this morning I go to pick out my ring and it's not on my jewelry set. And I'm thinking, oh crap, what did I do with my ring, right? And so I was like, okay, I know I was washing dishes. I probably put it in my pocket in my jeans. So I go to my jeans, I look in the pocket, they're not there. So I look down because I always change clothes inside my closet. So I'm looking down on the floor. I don't see them anywhere. The ring is nowhere. I look where I had placed them. I look underneath where they hung. So I'm like, maybe they're on my dresser. So I walked over and I flipped on the light in the bedroom because it was still kind of dark out, looked at my dresser, did not see it anywhere. And then all of a sudden I went, thought for a moment, just kind of cleared my mind, walked straight into my walk-in closet, put my hand down inside my shoe, my tennis shoe that I had not been wearing, put my hand in, went like this and pulled it up. Like I didn't even think, oh, I wonder if it's in my shoe. I just walked right over. It was like directed and guided. And I'm not saying that happens all the time, but that is what everything is there for. All the non-physical beings that we have around us are there to help and to guide us. And if you guys saw, I posted earlier this week about journaling, and Gabrielle was the new gal that I have kind of been sharing with you guys, that I've just absolutely enjoyed the videos that I've been watching on her. And when I'm done with, and I don't do it every day that I journal, you guys. So just know that you need to be felt that it's something you should do, not something that you feel obligated to do. Because even meditation, if it's an obligation, the feeling won't be there and your emotional state won't be right. But if you feel like, I know that if I don't start my day every single day with my 15 minutes of meditation and clearing my mind, that my day is crazy. But I've also, this is what's great, and I'm going to use this as kind of a takeoff on what you said, Norma. There were plenty of times where I would be doing that, where I'd be maybe even in prayer time or something, and something would happen, right? Somebody, like my dog comes running in or my cat comes in and making noise, and I've got to get up, and I would be that moment of, gosh darn it, I'm right in the middle of trying to get centered, and completely just throw it all to the wind. But what I've realized is I just put it on pause, went and took the cat out and figured, you know what, the cat obviously needed to go out for a reason. And maybe there was some reason that I needed to stop and pause for a moment. So then I go back, and it happened twice this morning, and neither time did I feel any sort of angst about it, which was really, to me, a huge thing for me personally. But what I did was, the other day I sat there and I said, okay, she talks about, the channeling before you journal. I'm like, okay, so I finished my meditation. I got my notebook. I had my notebook and pen already ready because I had listened to the video. So I did my meditation, and as soon as I was done, I wrote at the top of it, I am open to my spirit guides channeling through me whatever they feel I need to write or talk or listen to. And I just started writing. And it first started out with really basic stuff, you know, but the pen was moving and the thoughts were going right from my head to my fingers. And I'm like, and at first I stopped because I was like, what am I writing? But it was like words that I didn't quite know I was going to use at that moment. It was going in a really unique stream of consciousness. But it was such a wonderful feeling. And by the end of it, my writing was all crazy. Like it wasn't perfectly written like Tricia writes. It was like, because I was in a state and I was moving and I was going. And that's what, if you guys want to use that, I really feel it will be beneficial to you because you won't have any barriers. You're just going to freeform. And at what point you feel you're stretching, stop. Just stop. And like I started to write this morning and my first thought was, oh, I only wrote like half a page. Like I was disappointed, but it was what I needed to write today. You know, I was going to get it for you, but it was in the car and I didn't have a chance to grab it, but I was going to kind of share a little bit of it with you. But those type of things are so important that if you can get to that place where you're just free flowing, you're going to feel just amazing. And you're going to be able to look at that and go, oh, those are thoughts that were in me. That's what was there. That was waiting to come out of me. And I just wasn't letting it go. It could be something as simple as something you need to do at work that you've been dealing with a situation, and because you're free forming, it's just going to come out and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, there it is. Like, how did I just write out that I should buy lunch for my boss? What? I didn't write that, but I'm just saying that's the kind of things that came into mind. There were things where I was like, okay, I need to figure out some things. And, you know, what am I thinking? What am I supposed to be doing? Where am I supposed to be going? What is my direction? And I kind of wrote those out. And then next thing you know, certain things were being written out. They were things I had already thought about before, but had not taken action on yet. And the universe is very similar to that story where you hear about the man who's, I can't remember, like there's a flood or something, and I can't remember the exact story, but he's asking for God to send him help, and like he sends him all these crazy things, and he's like, dude, I sent you everything I could send you. The universe does the same thing. As soon as you ask, it is answered. And in your vortex, you have 20 to 30 different scenarios on how it's going to work out for you. And you have to listen for those impulses of thought, for those impulses of action, for the coincidences that somehow synchronize up and are there for you, the right person at the right time. If you end up stuck at a light for a little bit longer, think about, I would sit there and think, okay, look around really quick. Is there something I should be paying attention to? Is there something here that the universe wants me to see? Maybe it's just the person in the car next to you that needed a smile. You never know. You might be being used by the universe for somebody else, or the universe may be putting you in a position where you're going to be somewhere to help you get to that next level. So thank you guys. I'm not going to kind of go too much longer on that, but I want you guys to start considering using the journaling and the book of positive aspects. I'm going to look for the PDF to add it to the group so that you can have it, especially if you don't have the book. And then we'll kind of go from there. I'm not sure how these calls are going to kind of morph as they go, as we add new people. And like I was telling you today, Norma, these calls are fine for you to invite other people to, okay? Because the more people that are exposed to any sort of information about the law of attraction, especially if they're close to you, it's going to do nothing but benefit you. But realize you have to meet people where they're at. And sometimes people aren't ready to hear it. Right? I am now going back and listening to The Alchemist and so amazed. And I loved the book the first time I read it. I mean, I listened to it, I should say, since it was on Audible. But I loved it. I got so much from it. But now I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they talk about the universe and alignment. And being true to your inner being and being true to what your direction is in your life and what your life purpose is. And that is so what this is all about. And so now that I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I already had it, but I had to get to another place to now listen to it again. The universe brought me back. And the only reason it brought me back, you guys, is because I listened to Gabrielle, who led me to listening to more about Michael Beckwith, who then had me listening to an Oprah Super Soul Sunday, which then led me to Paulo Coelho, who I think that's how it's pronounced, who wrote The Alchemist. And I was listening to it going, oh my gosh, I need to read that book again. And not even realizing that the whole reason Oprah even read the book in the 90s was because of Madonna. Like, Madonna loved the book. I mean, Madonna's kind of on my, like, I'm not so sure how I feel about her right now list, but we all know at some point in time in the 80s and the 90s, this woman was on the top of the charts and in the top of the world when it came to just having wonderful things happen to her. And it's interesting when you start seeing all the different people, you'll hear the same names over and over again, Steve Harvey, those type of people that you're like, oh yeah, they definitely do. Will Smith, of course, Oprah. But as you start deep diving into it, you're going to start realizing you're going to hear about certain things for a reason. You accidentally click on something for a reason. Don't be immediate to just close the browser. Maybe take a moment and say, did the universe lead me here? Is there something here I'm missing? And it could be that you're like, why am I on this website? This has nothing to do with, why am I looking at giraffes? And then you see there's an ad down at the bottom of the website that you're like, that's exactly what I was looking for. And you're like, how did that happen? Right? So as we kind of morph this and we kind of learn new things, and I kind of grow in my own journey as I'm studying the law of attraction to share with all of you, it may morph a little, but for right now, we're going to keep with every other week. It may get to the point where I'm doing these just every week and it's not on the business side of it. We'll see how it all goes. It seems to be a same core group. So we can just open it up to, as each week we do this, different things maybe come up that lead us down different paths. But for our next call, you guys, just, keep at the thoughts of, as you're kind of going through the week, if something comes up with a great situation and you'd love to share it, please share it. If it's maybe you had a wobble going and you want to kind of go, okay, how do I fix the wobble? We can talk through that. But I think this is going to be beneficial because I can see that everybody who's been on these calls is seeing changes in their lives. Every single one of us. And that's really what it's all about. Everything will come to you as long as you go for a place of happiness and joy. If you are happy in a place in adversity, you will still come out ahead. You will come out in a better place than someone who's in the exact same situation and is like, screw this, everything goes wrong for me, glass half empty, right? And I never viewed myself as the glass half full kind of person. I was if it's wine, I'm going to drink the other half, or, I always had to make some silly little comment about it. But I've always viewed myself as what I thought was a realist. But a realist is somebody who's very conditional. And we talked about that, reacting based on what you see today. And that's not what we want to be. We want to be unconditional, that no matter what is happening around us, we will maintain the frequency of positivity, of happiness, of joy, of love, and know that even if we go a little bit off kilter, we now will have tools to help us get us back there. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight, and I will see you all very soon. Take care. Love you all.